4, 5, 6. 6 of us were here, plus town council, plus clerk, so.
Yeah,
And by my computer clock, it's 7:01, so I think we could open the hearing.
I think you can.
All right, so this will open the hearing, zoning board of appeals, Tuesday, January 4th, 2022, 7 p.m. Sitting as the board of appeals are myself, Woody Chidick as chair, Charlie Higginson, Dave McMorris is vice chair, Matt Watkins, Mike Dickey, and Lee Darst. So our very quick board business is to confirm, or at least let us know if you have any, if you foresee any impediments to meeting on February 1st and March 1st, our next two meetings. I'm clear. How about other people?
I feel like David had something on February 1st. Is that the truth?
So, do
That's
you actually
correct.
mean February 3rd?
What day of the
February
week?
1st.
February 1st, sorry.
Yeah, February 1st.
Yeah, I'm traveling on the 1st.
All right, so most of everything is gonna close tonight. Right now, I only know of one new hearing. The board could always bump it to the next week, but I don't know what works, if that even works for David or if that works for, it's really up to all of you.
Well, we don't know what's coming in between now and 2 weeks before February 1st, right?
Right, I know I'm getting one application tomorrow. That's the only one I know of. By the end of the day tomorrow, I'll know, because tomorrow is the deadline.
Well, I mean, you know, if nothing much is happening, we could give Dave a day off, but what if we get 3 applications that are, do you know what's coming in? Can you don't have to describe the, or mention the address, but just the type of application?
I did get, your son-in-law is doing that. I know, so you're going to recuse yourself, so we would lose you. And I recognize the address. It just came in this afternoon. So what we could do is let me get through tomorrow, see, and then I can, if we get multiple applications, I can pull the board for availability for the second week in February. If we don't, I only have the one plus what's going to continue, we could keep it for the first. Does that seem like?
How does the
two
board
options?
feel about that?
Fine on either. No, doesn't matter.
Compromise solution.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, well, sounds good to me too. Anybody concerned about the next following week?
I'm not.
Okay, why don't we follow that line of March, Jen, and see what we've got coming in, and then whether Dave either gets a day off or he doesn't.
Okay. Sounds good. All right, I'm just trying to promote Jeff Hassett for the, I've already promoted Chris Ford.
He's muted.
But for some reason. it's
So we
having
will
hard-
open this continued hearing of 237 Hull Street, which landowner Chris Ford filed back a few months ago. We do have a draft decision arriving today that we can discuss, but I'd like to open the hearing anyway and hear from Jeff and Chris if they have more to add.
So Jeff it's not allowing me to promote Jeff. Oh, here he comes. Ah, there we go. All right, we're good.
Okay, Jeff, I guess you're first up, is that correct? In terms of, are you speaking on behalf of Chris, or is Chris going to also speak?
Yeah, good evening. Yeah, I'll speak on behalf of Chris. I lost you there for a second while I was connecting.
Okay,
But my understanding of the last hearing, which was on December 7th, was that we really continued the public hearing in order to prepare a draft decision. And we have not submitted any additional information since then. So we don't have any, we don't have any information to present.
okay. Does Chris have anything to add in that respect, or if not, I would propose that we would close the hearing.
Chris is still muted. Oh, no.
I figured out how to unmute myself. It's been a pleasure working with all of you and especially with my team of Jeff Bigmore. I hope we've answered all of the questions that you had. And I'm looking forward to adding some nicely needed quality pop housing to the West Corner district, which I think there's a great demand because I have many people interested in moving into one of my apartments as soon as I can make them available. So I'm looking forward to hearing your decision.
Okay. Well, I'd make a motion to close the hearing then, and later on, after we hear have three other hearings, we'll deliberate. So with that, I'm making a motion to close the hearing on 237 Hull Street.
Second.
Okay, we've got a second from Lee. All in favor, Woody Chidick, aye.
Carl
Dave McMorris,
Higginson,
aye.
aye.
Lee
Matt
Darcy.
Watkins, aye.
Okay, unanimous. Well, maybe, I don't know. Mike is grinning like a
Just everybody spoke at once.
Cheshire cat here.
But I will vote in favor of closing the hearing as well. So.
Wow. Takes a load off my mind. Okay, here we go. Okay, our next hearing, which we will open up, it's a continued hearing, is 508 Chief Justice Cushing Highway, Peter Capozzoli. I believe we do have a letter from his attorney, Richard Henderson.
Yes,
that-
we received an email and a phone call asking to continue to the February 1st hearing.
Okay. So, and I'm also in receipt of a copy of a letter of the 15th of December from John Hallen, our Director of Planning and Permits, stating that the office trailer must be removed within 7 days of receipt of the order. Do we know if that has taken place, Jen?
So it was that, or move it. So that was the option. They actually moved it out of the buffer zone and put it onto the cement. And as of today, Mr. Capozzoli was applying for a temporary permit to be able to house, to make it a legal temporary structure, which is what John asked him to do. So that's one solution. The other item is that there was a email that came in late. So I didn't get a chance to distribute it, but that Rich Henderson has been working with both. He had sent it to the engineer for the water department, Jason Federico, and he's been talking to John Stuyvesant and John Hallen, addressing all of the issues on site. So we should have more information for the next hearing, if not the one after that. So they're all discussing things together, and Mr. Capozzoli has attended the water, and Rich Henderson has attended the water commissioners meetings to go
Okay.
over the site. So that's an update for that.
All right, so does the board have any comments on this, or should we entertain a motion to continue as requested by the applicant until February, our next February hearing?
I like the idea of people working things out.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'll make a motion then to continue the hearing on CGC Highway 508 until our February hearing, which will be determined within the next 24 to 48 hours.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, all in favor, Woody Chidick, aye.
Dave McMorris, aye.
Carl Higginson, aye.
Lee Darcy.
Matt Watkins, aye.
Okay.
Michael Dickey, aye.
There he is. Okay, so we got 6 votes to continue the hearing. I'll now turn to the next hearing filed by Clark Brewer for a property he owns at 15 Dolan Lane. Okay, Clark, you are muted, but I think we're all in receipt of the 30 December letter. But nevertheless, you may wish to take a few minutes to hit a few highlights there.
Sure, thanks. Thank you for having me back. I did follow up on Dave McMorris's suggestion that maybe moving the property lines around might help with the geometry, but it did not. And changing those lots that were land courted back in the 40s, I think would cause additional problems. And also council had suggested that maybe a variance would be an option. And I just, at this point, I don't think that's a reasonable option. It, obviously you could refile, I guess, at any point, but I think that if the board can make a finding relative to the special permit that I've outlined, I think that would be the best step at this point. And basically, I've boiled down a few main points that are repetitive from what I've submitted previously, but it said more succinctly, and I did get it onto 2 pages this time, which I think helps. But if there's any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them.
Okay, fair enough. Board members. Any questions for Mr. Brewer? I would say, Clark, I'm not seeing any sign of that. I mean, your memo of the 30th was, to my mind, clear. I mean, I certainly understand where you're coming from, so
Sure.
I don't have any questions in that regard, but it looks like the board does not either. If they, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, that's great.
Okay, well, if there are no questions, I would make a motion to close the hearing, because we've had, I think, a goodly number of submissions both at the hearing, and this is, as by my count, your 4th sort of interim memo. So I think we're well covered in terms of your petition. So I'd make a motion to close the hearing.
Second,
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor, Woody Chidick, aye.
Dave
Carl
McMorris, aye.
Higginson, aye.
Lee Darcey.
Matt Watkins, aye.
Okay. So we've moved and closed that hearing. We moved and closed the Ford hearing at 2:37. We have another situation here, 9 Diab Lane, filed by Attorney Brodsky on behalf of his client, Andrew Gallagher. But I understand, Jen, that for the benefit of the audience, that we've also received a request from Attorney Brodsky. Would you like to just either summarize or read it if it's brief?
Certainly. So we received a withdrawal request from Attorney Brodsky because it's understanding that that the situation is resolved. I talked to John Hallen this evening just to confirm there. He does think that the board should vote to allow them to withdraw. There are some hiccups in the transition, but he plans on setting them back to zoning when needed. But the items that are in question are not under the zoning board, and where we're closing in on the 100 days, it makes sense to do the withdrawal now. And then, John could probably come in and give you more of an update on it at the next meeting.
Okay. So we have a request from the applicant's attorney to withdraw without prejudice.
I move that we accept the request.
Okay, it's been moved. Somebody want to second it?
I'll second it.
Okay, Matt seconded it. So it's moved and seconded. All in favor, Woody Chidick, aye.
Dave McMorris, aye.
Michael Dickey, aye.
Lee Darcey.
Matt Watkins, aye.
Great. Okay, now we have one new hearing tonight. filed by Morse Engineering on behalf of its client, William Aaron, to construct a residential dock at 55 Gammons Road. Now, this is a bit earlier than we had planned in terms of our timing. So, Jeff, are you prepared to proceed with the dock request, or is this catching you at too early a moment?
No,
So
I'd be thrilled to present this early and maybe have an
I-
early night.
We actually have to hold off for 15 minutes because it was advertised for 7:30. We went through things a little bit quickly.
Okay.
So what I would suggest is we do the minutes. And then you could deliberate one of the, if you want to deliberate. So
Why don't we first do minutes, and then we'll take the deliberations in order of presentation here, which would mean that we would move to Lee Darst's draft decision after dealing with the minutes issue. Did people have a chance to read the minutes or not? I mean, it's,
I read them.
and I will make that change regarding the accept. I talked to Carolyn about it before everybody was here, because I was like, when I looked up accept, I had the C2, so I had to change my
yeah,
ACC.
there is a
to EX.
typo. There are a couple of the same typos on 15 Dolan Lane. The minutes read ACC EPT when it should have been EX CEPT, except for, well, or the second except clause. So that's a small edit, but that's been caught. I don't know.
It's
if
got
there
me
are
my whole life. That's gotten me.
you're getting out just in time. Okay. I didn't have anything on the November 1st minutes. Did anybody else have any comments to make on November 1st?
I thought I found a couple of typos. I'll submit them to Jen tomorrow. They are not substantive and are clearly just typo.
Okay, great. Anybody else on November minutes? And I don't mean to rush us through. We're going to have to chew up some time, but I would make a motion to accept the November minutes, and then we'll talk about December. So I've made the motion to accept November minutes. Second, anybody?
Seconded.
Okay, all in favor? Woody Chidick, aye.
Dave McMorris, aye.
Michael Dickey, aye.
Lee
Charlie
Darst.
Higginson, aye.
Matt Watkins, aye.
Okay. Turning to the December minutes. I guess we mentioned already a minute ago that there is a typo there. It reoccurs about 3 or 4 times places, and that's been caught. Discussion about the December minutes. No? Okay, well, I would make a motion to accept the December minutes.
As
Second.
amended. Okay.
Okay,
I will second that motion, Woody. Mike
great.
Dickey.
Okay, moved and seconded. All in favor, Woody Chidick, aye.
Michael Dickey, aye.
Dave McMorris, aye.
Charlie Higginson, aye.
Matt Watkins, aye.
Okay, so they've been moved and seconded. I think it is appropriate right here to interject the comment that my stint on the board obviously goes back before Jen's time. Jen's only done 16 years, and which seems like a yesterday, but doing these minutes is much more work than kind of appears when you see the final version. I mean, she's got to listen to 3 hours typically of audio recording to synthesize this down into 2, 3, 4 pages. And my fingers are crossed. I'm not sure there is going to be anywhere close to what we might call a replacement for Jen. There may be a substitute, but I don't think she can really, anybody can really replace what Jen's done. And I know because, well, I think we all know, but having drafted a decision for later discussion tonight, I mean, she distilled a lot and I don't think missed anything of substance. So we may have to put you on the consulting role or something. But at any rate, we've accepted those minutes. And maybe Lee, we could now turn to your draft decision and take it from there.
Yes, I got that out to everybody today. Although we had 3 significant meetings on September 7th, November 2nd, and December 7th, most of our discussions were about the parking issue. And once that was resolved, that the petitioner, the applicant only needs 4 parking spaces to accommodate the 2-bedroom apartment and the 1-bedroom apartment in this commercial space. The real issue was the addition of a dormer. We're not increasing the footprint at all. They were increasing the facade by 156 square feet, or 18% of the current amount, which will take the non-conforming in the setback of 869 square feet to 1,025 square feet. As I said, addition of 156 or 18%, it isn't increasing the roof line, it isn't increasing the footprint. So therefore, the applicant would qualify for a special permit to make the requested renovations to the property.
Are there any other, that seemed to be about the only outstanding issue, right?
The only outstanding issue at the December 7th meeting was the issue of the parking spaces. And they submitted updated drawings at every meeting. The December meeting, they submitted it with a parking table and the drawings to show where they would use the parking spaces, and they used a parking table to illustrate that each unit needed 1.5 parking spaces. That was confirmed by Carolyn Murray, and that they needed 1 spot for the commercial.
Which you say is also allowed to access on-street parking.
Yes.
Or off-site, or whatever we want to call it.
And it was endorsed by the closest neighbor, which really is the closest neighbor, the Corner Stop. I think they're about 5.7 feet away. They endorsed the renovations. Habitat, Richard Halverson spoke at the November 2nd meeting and did not present any objections, just stated that Habitat would be submitting plans, and they had an easement on the property also. Through our numerous requests, we saw the aerial photos going back to 2001, which showed that most of the paving that we looked at had been done in 2001. And so there really is a de minimis change to the property, and it's on the 2nd floor with the dormer.
How about questions from the board of Lee?
No, when I read it, Lee, I think the only suggestion would be like, and you did present it this way, but maybe just to stress that it also, it maintains 3 bedrooms. You did say that currently there's 2 in the studio and they're going to reconfigure, but I think that was part of it too, is that ultimately it maintains, it's currently, mixed use with office and 3 bedrooms. The end result here is going to be still 3 bedrooms and smaller office piece. So if you maybe tweak one thing and you might have even
that's a very good point.
Okay.
Yeah, very, very important points. as a matter of fact. I'm not worried so much about Mr. Ford's plan, but we should, in similar circumstances, deal with the number of bedrooms pretty faithfully, because you know, 2 bedrooms could easily become 4 if we're not careful. Not in this case, but I think it's a good catch.
Okay, great. I will make that change and submit it tomorrow.
Okay, I had 1 or 2 little typos. I don't know if I'll, well, actually, why don't, since we have a couple of seconds to kill here. On page 2, under proposed construction, first paragraph, the very last line, I think until should be unit.
Oh, yes, you're right.
And then could use, and then the on and street, from on-street parking should be hyphenated.
Okay,
And the very top of the next page, the last sentence in that paragraph, the applicant requested a continuance. Probably want to add the word at the October 5th meeting.
mhm.
Other than that,
I had one nitpicky edit. The
Good.
paragraph before the findings heading, it mentions town council. Council should be SEL.
what? Well, I agree with you, but where is that?
You see what the heading findings,
Yeah,
paragraph just above it.
Yeah, yes,
oh,
you're right.
above it.
Yes, you're right. You're right.
Oh, yeah. I went right over that.
Yes, I did too. Yeah. And you're whipping through that and spell check doesn't catch that. So yes,
No.
Spell check likes that just fine.
so yes.
Okay, and of course, as always, you know, if you give this another read, board members, tomorrow, and run across other typos, just get them into Jen. I don't think, we don't need to meet or vote on them, on non-substantive edits. So with that having been said, I guess we could move forward with accepting the decision as discussed. So I would make a motion to accept the Lee's decision with a couple of very minor edits.
I'll second that.
All right, moved and seconded. Woody Chidick, aye.
Dave McMorris, aye.
Michael Dickey, aye.
Okay,
Doris, aye.
or,
Matt Watkins.
Dickinson, aye.
okay, Matt and Charlie. So we got six zip on that one approved. Very good. And Jen, at least by my little computer, we were just
Yep.
seconds away from
We're done.
7:30.
Yes, we are seconds away. So I'll just take and try to kill another 30 and just ask, where tomorrow is my last day, if it's possible to get these decisions, and I will stamp them in tomorrow and get the notices out of decision and on record time. So, because I don't want to wait a week and a half, which is what would happen. So we'll just see how the day goes, but,
I'll do it
and there we
first.
go.
And has it been determined, Jen, like who in the interim would we send?
You're still gonna
Tonight-
send everything to me.
Tonight we'll have a decision. We'll send it to you as well.
Yes, I'm gonna still monitor the email for that. And I bet we could almost start now.
I bet we could.
Thank you.
Jeff, you may unmute yourself. There we go. Okay, so this will constitute the hearing on the dock at whatever it is, 55 Gammons Road, proposed dock.
All right, so Jeff Hassett here again with Morse Engineering. The property owner is Bill Aaron, and he's seeking a special permit for a dock at his property at 55 Gammons Road, which has frontage on Little Harbor. It's located in the RC district, and it's currently developed with a single-family home. The proposed dock will be, the pier will be 140 feet long. The first 130 feet is 4 feet wide, and the final 10 feet is 10 feet wide. That's the permanent portion of the dock. From there, there's a 3-foot by 24-foot removable gangway down to an 8 by 20 float. Accessory structures are required to be 6 feet off the property line. In this case, the very first portion of the pier is 18.5 feet off the property line.
Did we lose him?
We did.
We'll wait a sec here or two.
Hopefully he didn't lose power. I don't know where. I think he's in Situate.
Situate, Norwell?
Yeah.
Situate.
I don't have his,
Are we expecting power outages?
I'm just, sometimes they happen.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, usually with weather though.
Yeah,
Is there
Yeah,
any
we-
way, Jen, you could reach him by telephone and see if it's
I don't, let me see. I think I
power
just.
or a gremlin?
It looks like I just have his office number. Let me just see if he's emailed me. I'll be back.
Okay. By the way, as we're all waiting, are all board members and Carolyn, are you all healthy? Nobody's gotten any COVID residue or not?
Yeah, been good so far.
Yeah, at Christmas, we have 7 grandsons, no granddaughters, ranging in age from 2 to 15. And I'll tell you, the colds, the common cold that went around our house and then circled around again was really something. I don't imagine COVID could be much worse than 3 or 4 little boys all coughing and, oh God, anyway, survived it. But
Woody,
Picking
did
up
your
right
son
now.
come from England?
yeah, they got here. We were a little concerned because not only did they have to test within 24 hours of leaving, but England seemed to be lurching, or London, between opening and closing and opening and closing certain venues, but they got out and brought with them a nice English cold. But fortunately, a couple of my kids had stockpiled some tests. So we were able to test and be sure that we were virus-free anyway. Jeff, you're back.
Right, I apologize for that. I'm working remotely kind of suddenly after
Things
the
happen.
family
You
had
re-
some COVID testing today.
You
so-
remember where you left off. You were just describing the last dimension of the dock, the float.
Sure, and let me bring that back up.
Black.
So again, I apologize about that. So the very beginning portion of the pier is 18.5 feet off the property line. And the remaining portions of the pier and the dock are 25 feet or greater from the property lines. The required distance is 6 feet under the zoning bylaws. And the reason we try to hold 25 is that the DEP recommends that where possible. So this is our first step in the permitting process. We present to conservation on Thursday of this week. And then following local permitting, we file with DEP Waterways and the Army Corps of Engineers.
And of course, the Army Corps will be concerned about navigable waters, I presume.
Exactly.
So they haven't rendered an opinion yet at this point.
No, we can't file with them until we have the local permits in hand. They have to be
Okay.
part of that application.
Yeah, that's. And I see this goes right over a the line that demarks a salt marsh from a mud flat. So the mud flat, tell us about the high and low water mark, where it affects I know it's not within our jurisdiction, but the float itself.
Yep. So mean high water is approximately elevation 3.5. So it's a little bit beyond the blue line, which is the limit of the salt marsh. So we have the fixed portion of the pier going to the end of the salt marsh. And then the float will sit in what we call the mud flats, meaning it will be floating about 50% of the time. And then 50% of the time it will be on the mud flats. And what conservation and DEP requires in those cases is that the float have skids so that only the most limited portion of the float will actually touch in the mud flats. So there won't be a large boat on this. It's more going to be used for paddle boards, canoes, etc.
But it might have a motorboat outboard.
I would suspect that would be a condition of one of the conservation permits, that they can't do that, because that would sit in the mud as well.
Yeah. Okay, well, we have a couple of dock experts on our board. Maybe I could ask them if they have questions of you. I'm looking at a couple of them right now.
Yeah, I to be honest, Woody, I would just go through the relevant section of the zoning bylaws and kind of check the boxes. But I found usually most of that can be obtained from the submission, frankly.
Well, Jeff,
Yeah,
you
I
wanted
mean,
to,
Jeff, if you want to just articulate, I mean, I think as far as the height and the dimensions of the pilings and the fact that it's for private use kind of checks our boxes with what our purview is.
Sure. So yeah, this dock is intended for private use for the property owners of 55 Gammons Road exclusively. The ground elevation at the beginning of the dock is approximately elevation 8.8. And there'll be a few steps up when the dock will begin at elevation 10.8 and then slope down with the majority at elevation 9.8. The salt marsh is approximately elevation 3.5. So the gist of that is that we have to provide a minimum ratio for the height versus the width of the dock of 1:1. So that would be, a minimum of 4 feet, but we also have to provide 5 feet at a location as well. So that's where we come up approximately 5 feet from the salt marsh to the horizontal members. The size of the piers, the last 4 piers will be 6x6 posts, and all of the ones prior are 4x6s.
yeah, and you'd mentioned in your application, I think, what is it, 24 of them fall within our jurisdiction or some number? Something like that.
There are 26 piles.
Right. And a
Actually
couple,
plus 4, so 30 total.
okay,
And of those, 24 are above mean high water. Yeah, within your jurisdiction.
okay. This. Matt, what questions do you have, Jeff?
I have a question.
Okay, Charlie, sorry.
What's the distance from the outside of the floating dock to the far side of the that little cove? Do you have that? Because you can't block more than half. It's not our jurisdiction, it's the waterways jurisdiction. But any decision we make will include a provision that it has to abide by all other institutions' regulations.
Right. Let me check. So it appears to be approximately, just based on GIS, about 240 feet wide from, and this is projecting 34 feet into that. Meaning the, oops.
So it'd be less than, it would
From one side of
block less than half.
Yeah, it's much less than half, much less than half. So from one side of the salt marsh to the other was that dimension that I gave you off. And then it's only the gangway and the float that would extend into it. So 44 feet.
what was I gonna say? Jeff?
Yep.
I'm just looking at the bylaws now. It says, private boat docks are, permitted, by special permit. It says 20 feet in height. I heard you say that it's gonna be no more than 10 feet in height, but, do not exceed 200 square feet in total ground coverage. Is that something you're confident that you're under?
I am. The ground coverage would be simply the area of the piles, and that's about 4 square feet.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, everything I saw, unless David, you caught anything that jumped out at you, seemed to be within our purview, seemed to be,
Sure.
on point with where it needed to be.
I thought everything looks, so the dock application pretty much gives us everything we need.
Jeff, are there other docks in the neighborhood?
Yeah, there's a dock immediately to the south of this property,
Okay,
and you recently permitted a dock at the next property further south.
okay.
And this dock is very similar, same width,
Yeah, yeah.
same landing.
Mhm. Okay. Well, that's helpful. Guess neighbors can't complain if they have docks too.
There must be one neighbor without a dock. I don't know who that is.
Yeah, they'll be in front of you
We'll
next year.
find out shortly.
Could I just ask one mathematical question?
Sure.
So is it 4 square feet per the 24, so for a total of 96 on the ground? Or is it 4 total?
4 total.
I think a square foot in the ground would occupy six of the filings, wouldn't it? Oh, well, yeah, this is 4 by 6. Okay, but it'd be 5 each foot. So around 20 roughly, or 24. You've done the calculation, but I think 5 4 by 6s would fit into a square foot.
We still here?
Yep. Whoops, Mike is muted.
Yeah, but
Okay.
is Jeff still here?
Yeah,
Guess I should have flicked through the pictures.
So each pile, each 4 by 6 pile would be 0.17 square feet or 0.165 times the 24 piles is 3.96 square feet.
okay. Well, I mean, I think I don't know, strikes me as fairly routine.
I agree, Woody.
So are there other questions of the board? And if not, but we don't have a draft for you tonight. So I think we'll continue the hearing until our February meeting, at which point we will have a draft decision.
Okay.
Yeah, if we don't have any questions from the public, we could probably make a motion to continue.
Yeah, Jen, is there anybody?
I see a few people in the audience, but I don't see any hands raised or anything in the Q&A, so I think we're good to
Okay,
continue.
I'd make a motion to continue the hearing until February. And as Jeff, as I'd said earlier, we'll decide by tomorrow or Thursday at the latest, whether that's the first week in February or the second.
Okay. Sounds good.
But
All right. So on behalf of the property owner, I'll request a continuance to that hearing date.
great. It's been moved. I've moved
second
it to continue. Do we have a second?
Yeah, I'll second Woody. Mike,
Okay, moved and seconded. All in favor?
Charlie Higginson, aye.
Dave McMorris, aye.
Lee Darcey.
Al Watkins, aye.
Michael Dickey, aye.
Woody Chitik, aye. Okay, so see you in a month, Jeff.
All right, thanks a lot. Take care.
Okay. So we've had one deliberation, we've had a new hearing, we have nothing going on at 508 for tonight and nothing going on at 9 Diab. And we've already continued the dock, so we are have one remaining deliberation to conduct tonight. We've not had a chance to talk to each other on this one. But that's 15 Dolan Lane. I did draft a decision. I admit it came out yesterday, so the board may or may not have had a chance to go through in depth, although a lot of the space was taken up simply recapitulating the number of submissions we were dealing with here. Would somebody like to start off? Either I can review the findings if you'd like. I'm not going to review the submissions unless I didn't get something right. And then we can challenge, excuse me, the cough, any of the findings that I considered relevant. I did, for those of you who did see the draft, this afternoon, I dropped out two findings, numbers 12 and 13, which had to do with Dolan Lane and was really not, didn't matter before us. So tried to keep this focused on the request for relief that was in front of us and not stray off into irrelevancy. So why don't I just very quickly go through the findings, and again, as I said, you guys can ask me to be more specific or challenge me. Certainly lots B and C, I think there's no question we're properly subdivided by the Land Registration Office back in 48 and confirmed in 49. So I don't think there are any issues about the legality of the division of this tract of land. I think finding number 2, again, really doesn't dwell on, it doesn't focus on the issue at hand. It simply says that Dolan Lane could be problematic, but depending on any dimensional nonconformities vis-a-vis the planning board's bylaws and rules and regulations. But I don't think that's terribly germane for our decision. Thirdly, though, and now we get into some matters of substance and some matters that kind of run contrary to what Clark's briefs had, is that none of the 3 structures, he's claiming 3 structures, we'll come to whether there are 2 structures or 3 on site, but none of these qualify as accessory structures. To my mind, the bylaw is pretty clear in defining an accessory building, an accessory structure, if you will, as a detached subordinate building, the use of which is customarily incidental and subordinate to the principal building and which is located on the same lot as that occupied by the principal building. Well, back in, let's say, 1947, that in fact held true for this property. There was a house, actually the house that Clark lives in was the principal structure, and you had a barn, a shed, if you will, or kind of across the street, but nevertheless it was on a single lot, and they qualified as accessory structures. But once the land was divided, they lost that accessory structure status in terms of my read, because they're not located in the same lot. There was an issue about, well, what is an accessory structure? But I think the bylaw is pretty clear. You don't have to have a principal building on a lot. Clearly, I mean, there are many lots in town, I know, that have an outbuilding, a tool shed or something as the only structure. They may be in common ownership. That's a different issue. So the first finding of substance, I think, is that neither of these lots, none of these structures qualify as accessory structures. And I don't think there's any issue that we have about the existing garage. It's a pre-existing non-conforming building. It's lawful. And it's allowed to, under section 8.2A, it's allowed to be continued without expansion until or unless abandoned. So its status as we speak is certainly protected by that section
You fine?
of the bylaw, okay? Somebody's got a mic on, I think. But then we come to the second really substantive issue, which is finding 5, where we again depart ways with Clark. His claim or his assertion is that a one-family dwelling is substantially the same as an existing garage. And I personally don't buy that argument at all. I think nothing transforms an accessory building into a principal building or a dwelling simply because the lot lines change or the ownership changes. This garage is not used as a dwelling. It doesn't contain a sleeping room for use of one or more individuals living as a single housekeeping unit. It doesn't have nothing presented to the board says it has living, sanitary, and sleeping facilities in it that are currently not only being used, but being permitted to be used. There's no evidence that I could come up with in any of the town records that this garage is being used currently. I don't care too much about has been, but is being used as a dwelling unit. So I think it's substantially different. And as I mentioned, much of what we see in our zoning bylaws and state enabling laws in chapter 40A gives special treatment to non-conforming, pre-existing non-conforming dwellings or dwellings in general. And the state law doesn't merge or mingle an accessory structure, which could be something as trivial as a mailbox, with a dwelling. These are, to my mind, substantially different. So that's sort of the second major departure. And then I went on in number 6 to say that I don't think that my logic would hold true for what I consider to be a quasi-temporary boathouse. It's got a metal frame, certainly anchored to the ground, but the basic covering is plastic sheeting. It's probably a better quality shrink wrapping than my boat has, but be that as it may, it's really very different from a single family dwelling. And I don't think that it's habitable when it's out of the water. It certainly would be habitable in the water. It's a good sized boat, but it doesn't have appropriate sanitary or occupancy permits to enable it to be used as a dwelling, and it has not been used as a dwelling. So that's another point, that you basically take the boathouse out of the equation. And Mr. Brewer has asserted that there's a third structure on site, which is a former barn. All that's left of that former barn is sort of a rock, remnants of a rock foundation for it. But that barn has been abandoned long ago. Doesn't matter how long ago, as long as it's been abandoned for the past 3 years, it's abandoned. And it also doesn't qualify, in my estimation, as a structure. Some rocks on the ground don't qualify as a structure because a structure has to give support and shelter to something. And there is nothing above these rocks, the former foundation. And again, it's not unusual in Cohasset to have former foundations around. I mean, buildings that were built in the 17 or 1800s that ceased to be utilized. So I don't think this is a structure at all. So I don't think there really is one substantial structure there, and that's the garage. And I think that we have to be cognizant, as I said, in finding number 9, that buildings and uses already in existence, where I cite section 8.2.a, certainly protect the garage that's there. It may continue to be used in its present manner unobstructedly, but when abandoned, all future structures and uses shall conform to this bylaw. So says our bylaw. And the issue is that once you raise a building, you've abandoned it. Once you've destroyed it, you may have every intention of replacing it, but once it goes, it goes. And so as a result, an abandoned building doesn't carry with it any waivers or exemptions from the bylaw. Once abandoned, a replacement building has to conform in all respects to current zoning. Doesn't matter when the building was built, but it has to conform to current zoning. So with that having been said, we can stop at the findings part for a bit, and I'm happy to field questions or.
Woody, Mike here. Frankly, I like Clark, and I honestly believe that what he would like to do would be better for the neighborhood as a whole, to be honest, at least in my opinion. But I think I raised this issue at the last meeting. In the materials you circulated, this Angus V. Miller Wareham ZBA, I don't think, which essentially says that a non-conforming structure's exemptions and protections cannot be transferred to an entirely different non-conforming structure. And that's what I think Clark wants to do here. He wants to basically tear down the existing stuff and build all brand new stuff. And I don't think that he's legally entitled to do that. But I gotta sympathize with him. I really do. And nothing he gave in this December 30th letter really addressed that issue, I think. So I very reluctantly have to agree with your analysis, frankly. I think the neighborhood would be better if there wasn't a broken down old barn on the property,
This is not the first time we've run into this, Mike. Yes, there are some things that would be an enhancement either to the present property or to the neighborhood or whatever. But the law, the way the legislature has written the law and the way our town meeting way back when sort of adopted basically state law doesn't leave, in my estimation, wiggle room, but the people want to challenge that point of view. People on the board, by the way. This deliberation is confined to the 6 of us, or 6 plus town council. Charlie?
I basically agree with your decision, and I agree also with Mike. Clark is a great guy, and I hate to say no to him. I have a question. If we do say no to him, can he then turn around and immediately apply for a variance, or is he stuck with the waiting list, waiting time?
The 2-year waiting period?
Yeah.
Well, I think this is a perfect opportunity to call on my esteemed associate there, Carolyn Murray, town council. But Carolyn, you're mute. Okay.
There I am. I think I'm unmuted now. No, in answer to Charlie's question, absolutely, he could apply for a variance tomorrow. It's not a repetitive petition. He doesn't have to wait for the appeal period on this to run. It's an entirely different type of application and standard. So he could go ahead and apply tomorrow if he so chose.
Good.
Okay. Other comments on the part of the board?
No, I'll just say
That's right,
I'm in
Matt.
agreement of the decision myself for, the reasons stated, especially, number 5. And, kind of similar to what other folks have said, I think I might have called this a creative proposal a few meetings ago. But I think ultimately, yeah, it's one that's a different use of what's there today. And I think the decision that was written is the right one.
I also think that we have got to be careful, and I think I have in the decision, I hope, not to mix non-conforming uses and changes in uses in with non-conforming structures and changes in those structures. They're very different animals in the bylaw, and section 8.8, for example, which was part of the original request for relief, is a use bylaw. It has nothing to do with a structure. And if we determine that the use is substantially different, 8.8 doesn't apply. This is where I came out. And there are other bylaws, 8.7, et cetera, that deal with changes in structure, and use. But 8.8 is there are very few, I think, exemptions, if you will, waivers or variances given to changes in use.
On that 8.8 issue, though, Clark makes the point that 8.8 says that, let me just find it here.
Yeah, and I'm sure
There we go. It says that the use can be changed to a specific use not substantially different in character. But and Clark pointed out that if both uses are allowed uses as of right, then they're not substantially different in character as a matter of law. And I don't know where the reference to that is about them both being matters of right, but it is in the bylaws. So I don't have as much of a problem with 8.8, but I don't think it matters. And the problem that I had here was I think Clark's memos were very helpful in showing kind of a logical track of stacking different provisions of the bylaw to reach the result that he is looking for. And it had a lot of appeal, surface appeal at least, and it just seemed to me like it was kind of a totem pole approach to the bylaw. And it worried me because, just for example, that, someone having a tool shed 3 feet from the property line, that just, if that becomes a starting point to build a house on, with nonconformities as to the setbacks, then our bylaws really have no real meaning. And there are so many other things that are defined as structures that I don't think the planning, the master planning, or the zoning authorities in town or town meeting ever intended that to be a means of constructing houses that don't conform to the bylaws. But I think that your reasoning that these are not accessory buildings is absolutely correct, because they're not on the same lot. And that's why it's really not an issue for kind of as a matter of course, because anytime someone's applying to build a new house, it's going to be on a lot. And if there's no principal structure on the lot, they don't get the benefit of nonconformities of an existing principal structure. So, and I think that's completely consistent with the spirit and the letter of our bylaw. And that's the answer to why these types of structures don't give a handhold or a foothold for putting new structures on the lot that don't conform. So I'm completely satisfied with your decision in that regard.
Other board members? I mean, you don't have to just chime in, but if you have another kind of angle of attack here or perspective, it would be useful to hear it. Well, okay.
The only other thing I thought of, Woody, I
Sorry,
mean,
Matt.
I think it's probably appropriate that you mentioned, I mean, we did throughout the decision call it 3 structures. I was kind of racking my brain a little bit, and that primarily we spoke of the 2, but I guess the 3rd was mentioned, the foundation, you know?
Yeah,
You know, but the case was largely presented as 2, but I don't see any harm in kind of how it was written. But when I first read it, my first take was, oh, should that be 2 instead of 3? But I just figured I'll mention that. But there wasn't much emphasis on the foundation piece of it, but it was.
no, but it was used to kind of add to a non-conforming footprint.
Yeah.
Because it was a structure, and I don't think it adds, it doesn't qualify as an on the ground intrusion into the footprint. You wouldn't know from looking at it or even walking on the property what had been there once upon a time. I'll take Clark's word in that, but I'm sure that's right, that he's right. Once upon a time, it was a barn. God knows when that disappeared. Charlie, what about you?
I spoke. I said I agree with your decision completely.
Okay, Lee?
I agree with you, Woody. I read the decision yesterday and I agree with you. And I like the way you categorize that. If someone puts, something a few feet, that shouldn't, that they shouldn't be able to build on it. And I think that use that to establish a right to be able to build within the setback.
Yeah, I think if the law, state and local, had not used words like substantially different in character, so on and so forth, had been silent on that and just tried to merge structures together, there may be we might be having a different discussion. But I think phrases like that were put in to make a distinction between a mailbox or a tool shed and a 3-story home.
Yeah. I think that distinction needs to be made because all along that was in the back of my mind. That you can't just erect any structure and then use that to be able to build on. So.
Yeah. Okay, further discussion on the part of the board? The 2 decisions are to deny relief under 8.8, which is a change in use provision, and deny under as well relief under 8.7b. This is not an extension of an existing use, nor an enlargement or an extension of an existing structure. It's a brand new, the proposal is a brand new structure and a brand new use. And I think I mean, if I wanted to, I couldn't argue against that proposition, just kind of visually or tactically. It's a different use and a different structure entirely. I don't think anybody would confuse dilapidated garage with a nice 3-story dwelling. And I would agree that there are times, and Clark has the opportunity to come back, times when something might be beneficial. But if the law says no, the law has to be observed. So I would make a motion to accept the draft decision. And there may be typos, God knows, in here, other than typos, but I would make a motion to approve the decision as circulated this afternoon to you, where I did drop out a couple of semi-extraneous findings and decision. So I've made a motion.
Second the motion.
Okay, it's been seconded. All in favor, Woody Chidick, aye.
Dave
Charles
McMorris.
Higginson, aye.
Steve Darstine.
Matt Watkins, I.
Michael Dickey, aye.
Okay, so it's 6-0. That decision's been made. Town council, do you have anything that you would like to add?
No, I reviewed the decision, as you know, share with you earlier today, so I think it is in good shape.
Okay. So do we've kind of moved up the approval of the minutes. With that done, I believe our business, zoning board business is done in almost record time. But Jenna's got her finger up, which means.
You just need to do an assignment for the doc.
Yeah, I might be
Good.
doing that one. If you- I can
Okay,
take that.
good. Appreciate it. Well, we're going to be docked out at some point
I mean, I would think so.
in town. There aren't going to be any places left for a dock, but keep at it. So I think the big thing is anything that's coming down the pike that will affect, I mean, I'd like Dave personally, I'd like Dave's presence there if it looks like we're going to be, heavy load. If it's simply a dock and there's nothing new, I'm exaggerating, I guess. Clearly Dave's presence isn't required.
I can tell you I can quickly let you know.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, go
All
ahead.
right, no, if you want to keep talking,
No, I don't. I don't want to.
Okay. I don't want it. All right. Just taking a minute to open up. So the address is I apologize, my computer's slow because I have everything in Mohawk Way. And it's a small addition on the south side of the house. So
I
that's,
presume the house is non-conforming. I don't know.
yeah, it would extend the
guessing.
nonconformity. Yeah, that the structure was built in 47. And it's a 1-story sitting room addition on the south side of the house that would extend the nonconformity along the front setback. So that's the one we have coming in that I know of. If there's another, I will, let everybody know in the afternoon tomorrow or the next day. Well, I'll let everybody know.
Okay. Other board queries, inquiries? We may or may not. I don't know whether we'll get something. There is certainly a proposal before the planning board tomorrow night to a subdivision proposal at the end of Black Horse Lane. So I think that'll be anticipated by a number of people, but whether there are zoning appeals or whatever concern, in that regard, I don't know. I have no idea. But it may be an interesting presentation. I don't know. I'm going to listen in.
That's not the same parcel that we had a few years back, right?
Oh, refresh my memory. What was the
Trying to
parcel?
think, there was like a large parcel that had an old,
Barn?
an old structure, one of the last ones on the left there.
Yeah, they were moving at that point, or since have moved the dwelling into the barn, I believe, and are going to eliminate the old farmhouse. In other words, they're not adding, that was my understanding of a couple of months ago, that they're not adding a dwelling, two dwellings onto a lot or subdividing, but rather just really shifting a residence, different building, but a residence from one part of a lot to another. I don't know. I mean, no, I don't know, Matthew.
Yeah.
So there's that coming down and whatever. So we shall see. Well, with that, unless somebody really wants to just chat away, we can close the hearing. Breaking your heart. Charlie is, yes.
I'd like to have a vote of appreciation for Jen for working with us for the last, 30 years or whatever long. See what.
It just seems like
I
30.
move, thank you very much, Jen.
Jen, I would endorse that entirely. I mean, you have been a breath of fresh air constantly, and it changed. The zoning board changed when you arrived on scene. Believe me, I won't get into
Well, I thank you very, very
other
much.
circumstances, but
And there would be no other people that I would stay on after leaving except for all of you. Because I want you all taken care of, and I always look forward to our meetings, and I always very protective of you all, and I've felt we've been a good group. So you've inspired me. Zoning became a real passion of mine after working with all of you. So I thank you.
I'll add my thanks to the pod as well, Jen. I will say, when Woody approached me about joining, and he told me that you were going to be helping us, that was a big confidence boost to me, because I knew that you would, having worked with you on the planning board, I knew you were top notch. So I really appreciate all the help you've given me over the years, both on this board and on the planning board prior.
Well, thank you very much. I've enjoyed working at both boards very much.
We're gonna miss you. You really helped me when I first came on the board, and I know I can always turn to you for, information or anything that I need. And so I'm really gonna miss that. But I'm very happy for you going on to your position in Hingham. I think it's a great opportunity, and I know you're very excited about it. So
I am.
great
Thank
thing.
you. Thank you, Lee.
As am I, wishing you the best.
Thank you,
Yeah.
David.
It's nice to know that not only when I asked you a question would I get an answer, but it would always be the right answer. Nice thing to be able to rely on.
Well, I thank you, and I hope, I know we'll always be friends, and I know that I'm always going to be here if you have a question, and vice versa, because I might have to reach out to you, so, with questions. And I really will miss you all. So I'm lucky that I get at least another month or two to see your faces and work with you. So I'm a lucky lady. And I just want to mention there is one gentleman in the audience, Mr. Whelan, just to let him know that we advertised the hearing for the 55 Gammons Road for 55 Gammons for 7:30. So we ran ahead. We took it then. There's been no decision, but a hearing was heard. And I think that's where we are.
and there will be a draft decision next month
Right.
that we will
Right.
deliberate and decide on. So
Right, so it's been continued to possibly February 1st, could be the following week, so Mr. Wheeler can email me if he needs to. But again, thank you all for the kind words, and I'm gonna miss you all every weekly, but I get to see you a little bit more,
Great.
so thank you. All right, so I guess we can adjourn. Thank you, Matt.
yeah, we're gonna have to adjourn or I'm gonna get very choked up.
Me too, I don't want to cry, so we gotta go, but don't be strangers, come by and see me, I have one day left. So.
You're
No, I'll
only
see.
going to Hingham. It's like.
I know,
right
and I
by
live
the-
in Situate, and I'm in Cohasset all the time, so it's just, it's hard to say goodbye, but it's not goodbye, it's au revoir.
As we say, okay, well,
Uh.
I would make a motion to adjourn with love.
Second,
All in favor?
Michael Dickey, aye.
Matt Watkins, aye.
Dave McMorris, aye.
Lee Darcy.
Said I.
Okay. Right back
All
at you.
right. I'll talk to you all soon.
All right, thank you very
Bye.
much. Thank you
Bye-bye.
so much.
Good luck, Jen.
Thank you.